everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Sunday. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Big shout out to the Sunday crew. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the last bits of your weekend. This is going to be the astro weather for April 23rd through the 30th. We are post-eclipse. How's everybody doing? Got to do a check-in. That was a pretty brutal last week or two. And I'm pleased to announce that actually the astrology for the most part of the next week is a little bit calmer than what we've been experiencing around the time of the solar eclipse that we just had in Aries. You know, this week we're going to see the sun coming into contact with the North Node in Taurus. That's really what I'm going to be focusing on in today's lecture. And as always, I'll take you through day by day for the next week so you guys can plan your week. We're going to have quite a few lunar transits and lunar aspects that are going to be taking place as well. Yes, we are in the midst of Mercury retrograde in Taurus, so if you guys are wondering all about that stuff, I have a whole video dedicated to that. You guys might want to check that out. I also just put a video out that was previewing Jupiter in Taurus as well, which I think is really important because the degrees that the Mercury retrograde is taking place in, that 5 to 15 degrees, is the same degree that we are going to see the Jupiter transit in Taurus taking place in, and the retrograde. So clearly the cosmos want us to get kind of familiar with that 5 to 15 degrees of Taurus. This is also taking place in polarity to the impending bookend eclipse that we're going to have at the beginning of May on the 5th, the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So there are a calmer astro themes going on, but there's some subtle stuff that's working very kind of behind the scenes, very subconsciously with the Mercury retrograde. So don't be surprised if there are still things going on this week. Even though the cosmos are taking it easy on us, we're still in between eclipses, guys. And that period of the week or two in between eclipses really shows us where cycles are ending and cycles are beginning. Now, just recently with that solar eclipse in Aries, we've been planting new seeds. We've been really having to step up to the plate, working through issues relating to fear because of the squares to Pluto, working through issues also on our own developments. There's so much focus in the sign of Aries that even though the eclipse may be in the 7th or the 10th or maybe even the 5th house, it is still all reflecting back to ourselves and the actions that we're taking on a personal level, and what we're responsible for on a personal level as well. So the 2 weeks in between can still feel a little rocky, okay? So let's go ahead and start first with what's going on today, Sunday, April the 23rd. Early this morning, if you guys were up that early, we had both the Venus still in the square to Saturn. That's been playing out all week. So we've had some challenges and conflicts, perhaps in relationships and communicating in relationships. But the moon was kind of picking up off of that because the moon was in the earlier degrees of Gemini this morning. What I like about the transit now, if you guys are watching this earlier in the morning on Sunday, is that we wake up and the moon is in conjunction to Venus. So the way that we feel, the way that we are expressing our emotions, our domestic zone, right? Very communicative, very chatty, things are changing, but at least we're able to communicate and work our way through it. So today is a rather social day. I don't know what you got going on, if you're planning on doing a day trip, or if you're just wanting to call and catch up and chat with a friend, or just get out, in your local community. Venus and the moon together is going to be much more pleasant experience this morning and into the afternoon. We're really going to be feeling this all day. But earlier this morning, the moon was coming out of a square with Saturn right around the 8 to 10 o'clock hour AM. We're kind of losing that, so we're not going to be feeling that square any longer. Maybe we went to bed on Saturday last night having some issues with communication. We wake up today and we're able to kind of work through that. Something else that we're also seeing is now that Mercury has started its retrograde, it's making one of its first aspects in the midst of the retrograde, and it's starting to come into a sextile with Mars in Cancer. So we've got Mercury in Taurus, which is all about money and resources and organization and our values and where we're spending and what we can afford and what we need, and really trying to get our minds on track with aligning with our bodies, slowing down, right? Trying to really feel into the experience of just not just working 24/7. We have to really slow down and ask ourselves, do I enjoy this? Does this feel good? Am I thinking everything through before I make any physical or financial changes? So while Mercury is retrograde, remember, retrogrades talk about a change in direction. I read something yesterday that I really liked. I can't remember who posted it, but somebody was talking about the astrology, and they were basically saying people have a tendency to kind of fear retrogrades. And yes, sometimes there can be some difficult things that come up, or the past comes creeping back, but usually if something's not going well, the retrograde will indicate that there is a changing of a situation or a directional kind of shift. So if you've been having financial issues, if you've been having communication issues, if you've been having relationship issues, if you haven't been speaking out about something, a retrograde can give you the opportunity to turn that around, right? So what I really like about this Mercury retrograde is that it's happening very, very, very close to Uranus, which means we have the opportunity to change our mind, right? To do something differently. I love Taurus, but as a Scorpio, I think one thing that I notice about really fixated Taurus energy is that they have a tendency to not work smarter, they work harder. So there can be this sense of just like going round and round and round with the same routine, with the same grind, because they want to stay in their comfort zone and they fear, making changes in the routine, or making changes with their investments, or changes with even their home or their family. So a Mercury retrograde in Taurus is the time to ask ourselves, like, am I being too stubborn? Am I being too fixated? Am I miscommunicating, or am I having issues because I don't want to get out of my comfort zone? I don't want change. That conjunction to Uranus can really give us some amazing epiphany or kind of light bulb aha moments where we realize like we're not getting anywhere. We're just kind of spinning our wheels. So why don't we try something different? Now, it will eventually come into a conjunction with Uranus down the road next month when the Mercury retrograde is over. But what's so amazing about this aspect is that Mercury is close to Uranus, so we're changing the way that we communicate, changing the way that we think, especially when it comes to our values. And it's in a harmonious 60-degree angle to Mars in Cancer. Now, Mars is debilitated here. Yes, it gets kind of crabby, right? And it kind of goes sideways. It's not as direct and masculine as linear as what we would see in a fire sign. But at least we have the mind in positive aspect with our actions. And so we're able to really tune in and listen to our moodiness, our crankiness, our emotions, our emotional reactions to things, and really take our emotions into consideration and maybe really kind of notice where some of that stuff is coming up, and it's helping us change direction when it comes to our safety and our security. Taurus is really focused on providing the money and the resources and the food. Cancer is all about the domestic zone, our home, our family, our shelter, our roots. So Taurus and Cancer together are kind of the foundational signs of the zodiac that understand how to go and gather and bring all the things that we need to feel safe and to have a solid home, but also physical and financial base. So I think a lot of people are going to be reviewing throughout this retrograde, what can I afford, or where can I trim the fat in my budget? Where can I trim the fat in my excess spending? Where can I do that and, spend more time at home, or cook at home, or, save money for this, for a home improvement, or to be able to move. So when we see these two in aspect to each other, the mind and the willingness to change the mind and shift our thinking is helping us improve our emotions and take a better step forward with Mars in Cancer. So I encourage you guys to really work with this energy today. It's a very can do, yes we can do it type of vibe with Venus and the Moon in conjunction. When in doubt, phone friend, reach out to somebody, ask for some assistance, ask for some help. I'm really loving also the fact that in the evening, we'll see this tonight, really going into tomorrow. So you're going to get this Sunday and Monday the sun is coming into a conjunction with the North Node. Now, the North and the South Node are not planets. These are almost like invisible planets in the sky, and they're based off of calculations in regards to the moon. So we've got the North Node in Taurus in the sign of the moon's exaltation. It's sitting currently at 3 degrees. So it's all about communicating, expressing, right? Because this is a Gemini degree. We can see options, choices, different paths that are being presented to us. And it's also going to be in conjunction to Vesta, okay? So Vesta in astrology is this asteroid goddess that is associated with like keeping the home fires burning, right? It's all about where are we dedicated, where are we really focusing on serving and taking care of, and even like protecting. I see Vesta associated with altars connected to fireplaces and keeping a home warm or keeping something kind of lit up. And it's like this commitment almost asteroid, that of like almost like a nun, right? Or a priestess that's very dedicated and committed to something. So I think it's interesting that we see the sun and Vesta and the North Node all in conjunction. It means that the sun is shining a light on the Taurus kingdom, and it's really showing us where we must be devoted and dedicated to the things that provide us with security, and also really being focused on working and communicating and preaching love and devotion. So this can be in a financial matter. So it can be, you know, really investing in things that we love, whether that's time, money, resources. It can mean that we're also focusing more on being more gentle, caring, nurturing, loving. It can be that we are really paying homage to Vesta by going and focusing on the earth, right? Because it's in an earth sign. So how we're protecting the earth, how we're investing in the earth, and making sure that life continues to grow, that we continue to see nurturing of this planet. Now for you guys, just the sun conjunct the North Node would be a day that it would be shining a light on our future destiny. But with Vesta being involved, I think the question is what actions are you taking, or where are you seeing Sunday, Monday, that the cosmos are really kind of shining a light on? This is where you should be going. This is what you should be doing, right? And should is a word I don't use very often because it's like an opinion and we all have opinions. But generally it's going to shine a light because the sun is, you know, that spotlight. Now, when we see the sun conjunct North Node in transit, generally it's a significant time for personal growth and progress, okay? So this is where you pull your chart out, look at where Taurus is in your horoscope. The North Node represents your soul's purpose and the direction that you're meant to be going towards in this moment, right? Because the North Node is still moving through Taurus. It's only going to be here for another couple months. In July, it's going to move into Aries. So this is the last time we'll see the sun and Taurus in Taurus conjunct the North Node in Taurus for 19 years. So we're not going to see this for a while, guys. Essentially, the North Node, where it's moving, is showing us where we're meant to be growing towards. So it can represent lessons that we're going to be going through that's really going to help us when it comes to our soul's growth. Now, generally, the Sun North Node transit presents new opportunities and experiences that align with our purpose in this moment. It can feel like a turning point or a significant shift in our life, and we may feel a strong sense of clarity and motivation as if everything's falling into place. The key here, though, is because the North Node is mysterious, we don't know what it's going to bring. We want to stay open and receptive to the new opportunities because they may not always align with our existing expectations or even our existing plans. So we have to trust that the universe is guiding us towards our highest good, even if it may not be immediately clear what that looks like. So be flexible, stay open, right? It's really easy with Taurus to get super rigid and not willing to make some of these changes. I think the key is to just keep reminding yourself like, hey, I'm open to, you know, kind of nurturing whatever path is meant for me. Wherever I'm meant to go, things are falling into place, and I'm cultivating a life of slowing down and being able to really smell the roses, but also be mindful of some of the messages that I'm getting from the cosmos, so I know where to redirect my energy and I know where I should be investing my time or my energy. The transit can also be a time of increased confidence and self-assuredness. So as you're more connected to your authentic self and your sense of purpose, the more the Sun North Node transit is really going to highlight like, yes, I am on the right track. This is what's meant to be. So this is a wonderful time if you have any doubt, right, in regards to where Taurus is in your chart. That house, you may have some doubt. So the next 2 or 3 days, ask your higher self, ask your spirit team for signs. Be very specific for those signs. And when they come, it'll give you some kind of confirmation likely as to whether or not you're on the right track. Use this energy to take bold steps towards your goals and your dreams, and don't be afraid to take risks and try new things. Trust that you have the strength and resilience to handle whatever is coming your way. And regardless of what happens, very soon, right, the North Node is going to go through these same degrees, and it's going to show where some of the chances that you're taking now may end up being extremely financially rewarding, right? Extremely rewarding in a sense of personal fulfillment, in a sense of travel, lessons that you're going to be learning. There's some kind of wisdom that will come from some of these experiences. And it's an overall very generally very positive transit. Quick, but if you guys can make the most of it, it can be very beneficial. So this is taking place really April 23rd and the 24th. So you're going to see this into tomorrow. Now, as the day goes on Sunday, the moon is going to continue to keep moving through Gemini. It's going to hit a square, it looks like overnight, to Neptune. So the moon square Neptune, we may start feeling the effects of it this evening on Sunday night. So that can be a little bit more emotionally sensitive, a little bit more unsure also in terms of sharing ideas, and we feel that situations are kind of changing. In spite of that, we also have the moon in a sextile to Jupiter, so we're still trying to kind of stay in our own lane and focus on our own personal growth, and not fall into emotionally dissociating or, kind of questioning where we're going, right? When in doubt, just take a moment, take a breath, and really focus on faith. I like the moon sextile Jupiter. I think that's helping us stay optimistic about moving forward. Now, over the evening hours, the moon will continue to move through Gemini. Early morning, either right when we're getting up or right before we wake up, the moon is hitting that square to Neptune. Watch out on Monday morning for storms. There's probably going to be some significant storms or visibility issues when we see squares in the mutable signs. There is some kind of issues with visibility, or there's some kind of distortion. Remember that while the moon is in Gemini, or when it's in Virgo this week, we're really feeling and picking up the energy of the Mercury retrograde. So if you haven't felt it yet, likely you started feeling it on Saturday with the moon in Gemini, and you're also going to be feeling it on Sunday and Monday. But the moon square Neptune makes me feel like we go to work and, we're having issues because there's a storm, being able to kind of, stay on our typical route to get to the office. Take your time, be slow, make sure that you're defrosting windows and you're checking windshield wipers. There can also be some issues where there's some deception and miscommunication issues, right? Because Mercury is retrograde and Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. So while the moon square Neptune is happening, it looks like some of the miscommunication or the issues with clarity can literally be over finances, resources, or personal values. So throughout this entire Mercury retrograde, and I started seeing it literally in the shadow. It's like wild. It's all going in opposition to my Pluto, so I kind of anticipated, but it's like out of the blue, a bunch of like excess charges on my phone bill for like no reason at all, just kind of popped up, and had I not caught it and called my provider, I would have been charged like 25% more on my phone bill. Very Mercury retrograde in Taurus, literally phones, and it's about resources. Got a bunch of random charges where somebody in like Tokyo was buying food at McDonald's, and I had to call my bank and try to convince them that it was definitely not me. Watch out for financial scams, guys. They are going to be alive and well. People calling you, claiming that you owe money, getting stuff in the mail, saying that you have a bill that's past due, and they want you to call and give them your credit card. There can be suspicious charges and all kinds of things that are going on. So I'm anticipating Monday may be a day where some of you guys are seeing some of this stuff. Obviously, knock on wood, I hope that's not the case, but it's very possible that that is happening. I also like the fact that the North Node Sun is still in effect, and it's at a 4, which is about the foundation and the stability of your financial situation. And it can also be about home and family spending. So it could be a situation where somebody assumes, oh, so-and-so just didn't, pay their bill, I'll pay it for them. Or somebody gets a suspicious phishing email from a relative asking for money and you agree to wire it to them and it's not them. Just check in with your home base, make sure that everything is kind of kosher so that way you're not kind of getting fished for some financial stuff, and keep an eye on that. Outside of that, on Monday, really that whole day I think is about the sun conjunct the North Node. And, for me, slowing down, grounding, getting comfortable in our bodies, really paying attention to our six senses, what tastes good, feels good, like what's bringing us pleasure. It can be a day where it really benefits us to kind of just like check in with our emotional body, especially that it's at a 4. And I wanted to read to you guys the Sabian symbol for the 4 degrees. And, the truth is that it's right on the cusp here. We've got the North Node at 4 degrees and 2 minutes. And then we've got the sun that will cross that degree. And I'm like really splitting hairs here, but I don't think it's going to be exactly where both of them are at 4. Yeah, it's 4 and 1 minute. We could read 4 degrees, we could read 5 degrees, really it depends. If you want to get technical, we would read in this situation 5 degrees, but it's 1 solar arc minute. This is one of those situations where I have to tell you, I'm kind of on the fence here. I actually read you guys the 4 degrees from my Mercury retrograde video. It was about the promise of treasure, the rainbow's pot of gold, right? And I talked about how it was on personal fulfillment. I think that applies here, but I was reading the Taurus 5 and I was like, I wonder if this is actually more what's going to play out. So if you guys understand what I'm talking about, then I don't have to explain myself. But those of you guys who are new to the Sabian symbols, when you read the Sabian symbols, you have to read, if it's not exactly at a degree, right? If it's not 4 degrees and so many solar arc minutes, you read 5. So we have to round up to the next one. So in this case, for the Sabian symbol for 4 degrees, because it's 4 degrees and 1 solar arc minute, we're going to read Sabian symbol for Taurus 5, okay? So Taurus 5, a youthful widow, fresh and soul cleansed from grief, kneels at an open grave to receive the secret of eternal life. Letting go and moving on. The symbol speaks to the great sense of deprivation and grief that the individual can experience when he makes anything physical the entire focus of his reality and affection, then loses it. The image of a widow at an open grave is one of the images that Mark Jones describes as reverse symbolism. He commented that there is an implication here that of all need to release the sense from all outworn elements of the experience, or let go of which is dead and gone to get on with living. The emphasis here is on the need to adjust. The individual is asked to focus on what he still has rather than what has been lost, and to count his blessings. At its highest, the symbol represents the ability to maintain equilibrium, flexibility in the face of change. Material loss, disappointment, premature endings. Watch for pessimism, discouragement, feelings of helplessness, and lack of self-confidence. Today, the accent is on refocusing, transition, and change. It's time to let go of once was and notice the new opportunities that lie at hand. Life is what you make of it. Your greatest advantage lies in looking ahead to the future. Take stock of your skills and talents and all the resources around you. You may have overlooked something that you can use. Guard against letting disappointment get you down. Fretting over what has been lost can prevent you from recognizing new opportunities. Stepping stones would be adjustment, reorganization, reassignment, transition, loss, disappointment, release, and letting go. So it's weird to me that the North Node talks about gains, right? And the Sun conjunct the North Node is talking about the positivity of what we physically have and may possess. But the Sabian symbol talks about what we're letting go of. So this could be very literal or figurative. There can be a sense of being so consumed with what you've lost and what you don't have that you're grasping at anything, or you're eating things, or you're shopping, or there's a sense of really kind of leaning into the material side of life because you're trying to cope with what you don't have. But On another note, this makes me feel like it's like the soul has the opportunity to rejoice over what has left because of now the limitless opportunities that may come in, right? And so sometimes when we go through loss or we go through grief or we go through ending, we don't really understand because we're so deep in the moment of the emotions of that is paving the way and creating that fertile ground for something new to grow, for a new job to come in, a new relationship, a new opportunity to be able to, you know, choose a different path. I think that we're going to be very present with that this week. Okay, so you guys are going to have to look for the silver linings. I think it's about not losing yourself, knowing when to fill the grave and let go. It may be literally letting go of people who have passed away, who have disappeared from your life, and needing to do that in order to move on, because also it's going to help you feel more secure and more stable by not waiting for that person or that thing to come back in. Gathering up your energies and moving towards new objectives and letting go of the old. So I'm going to make several comments this week about spring cleaning. If you have been waiting for the time to spring clean, this is your week, okay? Whether you got to like clean some people out of your house or you got to go and like, you know, get your dust buster and get some dust bunnies, all of this week is going to be the most opportune time to spring clean. Let go of old relationships and things, purging the past, a gradual realization of the illusion of the matter, passage of grief, redundancies, a gift that loss and separation can bring. And also, you know, don't be so focused on lost opportunities. Grudges may come up this week, hard feelings. In particular, this is a Sabian symbol that talks about divorce and the loss of relationships that can take place and the grief that comes from that. Mourning is incessantly, right? So yes, there's a time and place for these things. It's inevitable when we have eclipse seasons that there's endings and beginnings, and we have a very intense lunar eclipse coming in just a couple weeks' time in Scorpio. So I don't feel like this is something that we're just going to move through in a day or two and you're good. You guys may need until the next eclipse and the Mercury retrograde to process some of these themes. It's kind of like the Five of Cups. You know, I would say if you're upset, it's okay to be upset, but don't get stuck there. Right? Be mindful of how deep the hole of grief that you may be in, and if you're going to be able to pull yourself out, and if you're potentially missing opportunities because you're comfortable being in that space, right? Okay, so then we're going to take this to Tuesday, because there's not really much going on, you know, believe it or not, on Monday. The only thing that you are going to see is that the moon is going to change signs. So the moon will change signs. The sun's conjunct the north node. It looks like it's going to be in the afternoon. The moon is going to dip into Cancer, where it's very comfortable. We're going to see on Monday night when the moon hits a 4, we're going to see a grand water trine. So once again, another 4. So the sun sextile the moon, sun in Cancer, sun in Taurus, moon in Cancer, working together, really focusing on how can we gather up what we need? How can we focus on security? When the moon goes into this sign, we're a little bit more private, a little bit more sensitive. But what I like on Monday night is that we're going to see the opportunity with the moon trine the south node to emotionally purge, to let something go, to clear something out. We're also going to see the moon trine Saturn. And it's all at 4 degrees, guys, okay? So it's all about the home, the emotion, the past, the roots. Even though it's a Monday night, there's a lot of emotional work to be done. There's a lot of emotional clearing. If you don't work on Mondays, or maybe you come home and you're feeling a little restless, this may be when you start kind of organizing your home, your closets, your kitchen stuff, kind of clearing stuff out. This would be one of the first days that you can start doing that if that's something you want to do. We're not going to really have it at a time where it's very useful, but it's still a good aspect. The sun and the moon in a sextile to each other is the first positive aspect the moon has made since the solar eclipse, okay? So that sextile to the sun is like, okay, we're rebuilding, we're emotionally paying attention to what we need. Even if you don't get much physically done, this is like a lot of emotional kind of clearing in labor that's taking place on Monday night. So I like that energy, especially for committing to new emotional boundaries, right? Or making some big decisions about home or family. Then the moon is going to continue through Cancer over the evening hours. We're going to wake up on Tuesday the 25th, and the moon is still in Cancer. And one of the first aspects that it's going to make is it's going to come into a sextile with Mercury. Okay. So Mercury and Taurus talking about resources, values, physical things, financial things. And the moon is picking up that energy of like, okay, you know, how are we feeling? How do we make these changes? How do I feel about my home life? How do I feel about my finances? How do I feel about my family? And then the moon is going to continue to keep moving through Cancer, and it's going to come into a conjunction with Mars. Now, here's where it gets a little funky. I'm assuming that on Tuesday night, people are they're probably going to be feeling a little crabby, okay? Not just because of this conjunction, because Mars is debilitated and Moon Mars is about being emotionally impatient, being a little sensitive, being a little snappy, but because the moon is also now starting to pick up this sextile to Uranus, which is about things financially and physically changing. People might be like a little bit more protective, or there may be some more conflict going on in a domestic sense, or some tiffs with mothers or women or family, issues with even like neighbors or relatives, landlords can be going on. This might just have people also feeling very passionate emotionally, or needing to take charge emotionally. So this will be in the PM hours. It'll be when most people are kind of getting home or on their way home from work. If you're traveling anytime, like let's say between the 4 and like the 8 o'clock hour, take your time, right? We see more accidents, we see more cuts, we see more burns, we see more lacerations, arguments when Moon Mars contacts happen. So even though the moon's happy in Cancer, it's not totally thrilled being in this conjunction to Mars, and it's going to start picking up a square to Chiron. So this is where people are feeling wounded, they get reactionary, they get kind of snappy. Okay, so that'll be in the evening hours of the 25th. Take your time, don't rush, and just be more mindful that people are going to be a little bit more emotionally on edge, okay? So that those flames are hot, clear into the evening. That means also when you're cooking, baking, whatever, prepping, be mindful of just like working with hot water, working with knives, anything sharp or anything that can burn. Then on Wednesday, we're waking up in the morning and the moon is still in Cancer. But one of the main aspects that we're going to see this day is that as the moon continues to move through Cancer, it's going to start trining Neptune. Okay, so it's feeling emotionally sensitive, more intuitive, more inspired. This is also going to be an opportunity, I think, for us to kind of tap in more to our dreams, our intuition, our emotional state. I would say that anyway with being in a Mercury retrograde. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like, you know, maybe it is because Mercury rules my 12th house, but when Mercury retrogrades happen, I have some pretty visual dreams that are extremely symbolic, things that come through that help me make sense of like my waking life and things that I may not always be as consciously aware of. And it really helps me kind of like figure out my blockages and what I'm not dealing with. So this might be a time, not just because of the trine, but this might be a time where some of you guys would really benefit from like dream interpretation. And I know I've said that on the channel before and people have asked, but I would just say like pick up a dream interpretation dictionary. There's tons out there. Probably one of my favorite people who's also an astrologer, but he's done a lot of work in dream interpretation, is Dr. Michael Lennox. I know he's written some books on that, but there's lots of resources also online. So if you're having any really prominent dreams coming up, looking into the symbolism might be helpful. That's really the only major aspect that we're having on Wednesday. So to be honest with you, the moon trine Neptune is feeling inspired. It's more sensitive, more creative, more dreamy, more whimsical. Not entirely too bad. Wednesday is actually going to be one of the easier days this week. So then the moon's going to keep moving through the sign of Cancer. We get into the evening, and then it's going to be coming into Leo. So it'll be really late on Wednesday night, very early on Wednesday morning. the moon will be moving into Leo, and it's immediately going to start coming into an opposition with Pluto. Honestly, from the time that the moon is like 27, 28, 29 degrees in the evening, you guys are going to start feeling the intensity, especially considering the moon, while it's in the late degrees, is squaring Jupiter. So there's this buildup of being more emotional, more sensitive, more empathic, more kind of reactionary, and then overnight, thankfully, the moon will oppose Pluto. Now, this makes us feel emotionally threatened, triggered, and one thing that you guys are going to see that's going to set up, and this is going to be on Thursday and Friday, is we're going to have a number of squares that's going to be taking place. So just a heads up, like Thursday is probably one of the more intense days. And that's because early in the morning, the moon-Pluto opposition happens, but we're still feeling it when we wake up, because as we wake up in the morning on Thursday, the moon is now in a square to the nodes. Okay, so while the moon is in Leo, things are dramatic. Okay, it can be more about creativity and children and having fun and taking chances. But now we're taking a look at the sun, because the sun rules Leo, and the sun and the moon are in a square. So these days when we see the like the first lunar square, so this is the opening, the quarter square aspect of the moon, things don't go according to plan. Thursday is a day where, meetings may go behind, you may have some financial challenges, there may be some challenges with, kids and issues with like lovers, because the moon is coming into a square with the sun. So when planets square the north or the south node, we see karmic things take place. Recently with the moon, with Pluto moving into Aquarius, we're starting to feel how Pluto is squaring the nodes, and it's showing us wherever Pluto is in our chart, there has to be a radical change or a transformation, or something has to die off. Well, the moon coming into Leo on Thursday morning is going to square the nodes. So there's heavy emotions. They're very loud, very external. There can be some drama. It's also squaring the sun. So our actions and our emotions don't really feel in alignment. Things are a little discombobulated in fixed signs, which don't want to change. And then we are going to see the moon fully square the nodes once again out of 4. I think that with all these 4s showing up this week, it's just really showing us that's like, man, the past can really create some damage. Like if we're holding grudges, not forgiving, not letting things go, rehashing the past, wanting to get stuck there, it's making it so difficult to move on. It's like cement, right? Trying to pull ourselves out of cement. I'm not wild about the sun and the moon square, because it's also picking up the energy of Mercury retrograding into conjunction with the sun. So it's also really highlighting the fact that this Mercury retrograde is a moment where a lot of us are supposed to be asking ourselves, like, what am I investing into, right? It can be time, it can be money, it could be, feelings, emotions, although, these are in earth signs, so it's very practical. There can be a sense of, what am I putting into something and what am I getting out of it? What am I putting into a job and what am I getting out of it? Is it worth it? What am I putting into a relationship? And like, what do I feel like I'm getting out of this partnership? Am I being met halfway or am I not? I think a lot of people are going to be asking themselves these questions Thursday, Friday. If you happen to be somebody who's got any planets in the fixed signs, like let's say 0 through 8, 9 degrees, you're going to feel the pressure here, and we're going to have a grand fixed cross. The positive is that the moon swinging through Leo on the 27th is likely going to create some kind of drama that's going to make us reevaluate the retrograde in Taurus. What I don't like about this is that the fixed signs don't want to change. Being someone who's come out of the last 2 years, I've had Saturn create fixed squares in my chart. It's been really difficult, but it's also pushed me to continue to keep moving forward on some projects and some things that I've been working on. So yes, you're going to feel grinding of the gears on Thursday. It's inevitable. But the question is like, with the sun, with the moon in a solar sign, what is your heart telling you? And I think the sun conjunct the north node is shining a light on what's going to bring you the most joy. I think this Mercury Cazimi that's going to be setting up on May the 1st, when we have Mercury conjunct the sun, getting to the heart of like what we really value, what we really need, what we really think or have to say. all this week we're going to have experiences that's going to be kind of putting the pressure on us, getting us to think more about this, more about our personal values and what's going to be changing. So we have the moon ingress, we have the moon square the nose, there's some emotional or dramatic things that show up that maybe tempers flare and things come up because we have to make a big deal about something in order to be able to kind of hash it out and have the conversation, right? Sometimes like the easy relationships or the easy working partnerships or whatever where there's no issues, even though it's pleasant, there's no real evolution. So there can be some friction that can come from these squares where, yeah, we're going to kick some dust up, but it's going to allow us to kind of clear the air and talk about what's really been on our minds. So we're going to see that heavy karmic energy kind of feeling like we're in roadblocks really until the moon comes out of a square with the sun. So that's going to be later in the evening hours. And then even later in the evening hours, we're going to see the moon in Leo come into a square with Mercury retrograde. So still issues communicating, expressing, during Mercury retrograde, people don't always understand what we're trying to say. There's communication breakdown. People misinterpret texts, emails go missing, people jump to conclusions. And it can create some drama. So just be mindful that Thursday is the day that we would be seeing that going on. Now this is going to take us to Friday on the 28th, and we wake up Friday morning and the moon is still in Leo. And the moon is now starting to build into a trine with Chiron. So we're able to work through our wounds, communicate more about our wounds. Finally, we're starting to see the moon kind of break out of this square to the sun and Mercury where there's just too much going on, where we're so focused on money or our own possessions. Now we're getting away from that. And while I like the moon trine Chiron where we can focus on healing, I'm not wild about the moon coming into a square with Uranus, because that does make me feel like we are acting wildly because there are physical or financial changes. And it's happening at 18 degrees. So that's a degree that's going to be about health. That can be about accidents. That can be problems with coworkers. So that's going to be taking place in the afternoon. So you guys, unfortunately, we have to, at least during Taurus season, we have to know when the moon's going through the fixed signs, because when it's going through Leo, it's squaring. When it comes into Scorpio, we're going to have the lunar eclipse. So the fixed sign, transits are still going to be pretty significant through some of these lunar shifts. We're going to feel the pinch. And that's going to be into the afternoon. So not that Friday's a bad day, but the moon square Uranus is we're still having to pivot and kind of respond differently to changing situations and scenarios. And honestly, this Mercury retrograde is going to throw a lot of people for a loop because I think there's going to be so much financial stress or so much changing physically or in a sense of our material world that it's going to be hard to, not be stressed out or kind of, thrown for a loop when we're communicating with other people. So we're still seeing a little bit of that kind of bleeding into Friday morning, Friday afternoon. As we go later in the day, we're going to see the moon continue to move through Leo. That'll go clear into the evening. And in the evening, we start to see finally the moon pick up a trine to Jupiter. Now that'll be in the late evening. It'll happen overnight. So those of you guys who are looking to do something on Friday, hey, you can do that if you want. Just take into consideration that making plans the day of Friday morning, Friday afternoon, a lot can change. I would recommend making plans earlier in the week and probably meeting later in the evening on Friday. So you're kind of missing a lot of this fixed kind of square, kind of hang ups. I could see a lot of people with the moon going through Leo. Yeah, I want to go out. We're going to go and do something. We're going to have fun. And then there's a lot of people checking their bank statements or realizing that, rent's about to be due or what have you. And they're like, I can't afford it. I can't do it right now. And there can be a lot of change of plans. Okay. Then we're going to see overnight on Friday going into Saturday, the 29th. We wake up in the morning on the 29th and the moon is in the late degrees of Leo. So it's getting ready to leave Leo. It is also coming into an in conjunct or a quincunx with Neptune. There can be a sense of not having a lot of clarity about something. There can be a sense of feeling a little confused. But for the most part, we're still picking up that trine to Jupiter. So Saturday morning with the moon trine Jupiter is great. I like that. We're also seeing that the sun has been in a sextile from Saturn. So this is actually one of the better days. If you don't do something on Friday night, Saturday morning is totally fine to get together and kind of socialize with people right before the moon Saturn opposition. So I actually really like Saturday morning. In the afternoon, we are going to see that, actually it's pretty much all day. Mars is in a sextile now with Uranus. So if you guys remember earlier in the week where Mercury, the mind, was rethinking the direction that we're going forward, well, now moves are being made with Mars in Cancer and a sextile to Uranus, pivoting, right? But also using our emotions to kind of better navigate and guide the way forward. I think that this can be really great for listening to your intuition when it comes to moving, relocating, maybe moving furniture around in the house. Maybe you notice that some shifts that you're making in the home, or moving things from, room to room, or if you want to feng shui your space, or anything to like declutter, you might notice it just has an energetic feel that's very different. I have a feeling for a lot of people who want to do spring cleaning this week, maybe Monday was the day that you were like, okay, these are the things that I want to do. This is what I don't like. This is what I do like. These are the items that I want to like get rid of or donate, that reminds you of an old relationship or just something that kind of has a vibe. And then it'll be on Saturday and Sunday that you actually start doing some of this work. So with Mars and Uranus in a sextile to each other, moving things around the home and also using water or herbs can totally shift the vibes at home. Then later in the afternoon, we're going to see the moon move into Virgo. And that's really when we can get our assessment on, our labeling, our organizing, purifying, cleansing, making sense of things. And once again, when the moon is in a mercurial sign, then we're really paying attention to what's going on with Mercury. Mercury is getting closer and closer in its retrograde to the sun. So, I love a Mercury retrograde to clear out the fridge, to go through a stack of, letters or bills or things that need to be shredded or organized, to reach out to somebody that I haven't reached out to go through my spam email box. You guys may find that on Saturday and Sunday, these are things you're doing. Because Virgo does deal with our to-do lists and our busy work and kind of getting things kind of organized and set up, you have some amazing opportunities. Actually starting more so Sunday, you'll see once the moon comes out of the opposition with Saturn, to start doing those things. But I think that maybe you're going to start putting, plans into action on Saturday night. Now, keep in mind, as the moon is in Virgo, it's going to start picking up energy to the North Node, to the Sun, and also to Mercury. And when we have those trines between planets and Earth signs, we can get a lot of work done. I especially think that the moon's going to be very pleased to see a trine to both the Sun and Mercury. Well, later on Saturday night, we're going to see the moon start coming into an opposition with Saturn. So this can be difficult for emotionally relating. You guys are going to start feeling this probably 8, 9, 10 p.m. There may be a sense of being like, sorry, I'm hiding out. I have things to do, or I'm not feeling like going out. I have to do some work. I've got to catch up on emails or meetings. And with the moon in opposition to Saturn, it's hard to emotionally relate, right? Virgo is physical, it wants to go through the motions, and Saturn in Pisces wants to kind of sleep and rest and lounge. So we might feel like we're being pulled in two separate directions where we're like, okay, I'd really rather be checked out and not doing anything, but the moon in Virgo is saying, no, we gotta be getting something done. We have to kind of have an outlet for some of our work. Health changes, dietary changes, scheduling changes, these things are all positive. So if you're really wanting to kind of rest and relax and focus more on your health and your wellness, wonderful time to be doing that on Saturday or Sunday as well. Now we wake up on Sunday, the 30th, and this is where things start getting a little bit easier. And I really feel like Sunday morning, like make a note that Monday and then again Saturday, you're strategizing for what task you want to take on. If Sunday's the day that you're like, okay, I've already kind of decluttered some things and come up with a strategy plan to clean the house, organize the garage, have a garage sale to be able to mop, clean, whatever you got to do, Sunday is the day that you're going to want to do it. We've got some awesome energy. For starters, the moon has been already in a trine to the north node, so it's about getting something, getting to the bottom of something, focusing on physical forward movement, emotional or home cleaning. Then we have the moon in a trine to the sun, so our actions and our emotions are in alignment. It's in earth signs, so we're actually seeing things manifest and transform right before our eyes. We're also going to see the moon trine Mercury, which I think is really wonderful because Mercury is saying, I'm doing something a different way, and the moon is saying, yes, I will support that. And then we're also going to see that the moon is going to start coming into a sextile with Mars. So we've got this nice energy where Mercury is telling Mars, to pay attention and to get something done on an emotional or on a home level. And then Mars is having a conversation with the moon and it's saying, okay, well, how does this feel? Do you like this? Do you like that? So there's an amazing working energy to just emotionally or literally kind of clean house Saturday night into Sunday. It can also just be a time where you're like, you know what, I just want to spend more time at home and I want to feel like I'm preparing for the month ahead. You can do that as well. It's just very productive energy and I want you guys to make the most of it. Now, keep in mind that one thing you're going to see, and by the time I'm bringing it up, it'll be happening. So that's why I'm telling you this now. It might start on the 30th, but I think it's mostly going to be on the 1st of May. I will talk about this in my horoscopes. Don't worry. I'm probably going to do a video on it. But the Sun Mercury Cazimi is setting up. Okay. So you're going to see this maybe Sunday, next Sunday, maybe Monday. But this is going to be the halfway point in the Mercury retrograde where Mercury has retrograded and it's going to conjunct the sun, bringing the sun a very important message. Well, while that's happening, we've got a trine to the moon in Virgo. So we have a lot of support. There's a lot of assessing and going through data and information and organizing something. We are also going to be seeing that the dispositor of this, which is Venus, is coming into a square with Neptune. So we're going to be hearing a lot more out in the world about health, about health regulations. We're going to be hearing a lot more about gaining clarity about information that we're receiving. I think about previous decisions that we've made about mandates over the last few years. Those of you guys who have not heard, there is a lot going on with the World Health Organization right now. There is meetings that are taking place as we speak where they are proposing a pandemic treaty, right? That's what they're calling it. And it sounds good. When in all reality, the topics that they're discussing is actually rather scary. And it's setting up a panel through the World Health Organization to make decisions about what is a future pandemic, how that's going to be affecting us, where some of our tax dollars are going to be going towards and allocating these decisions that are being made. Nobody voted on this group. This is also a primarily private funded group, and it will be a panel that is international that will in some ways infringe on, especially here in the United States, our constitutional rights. And there is no say, because it's all very loose in terms of the terms in the treaty, as to whether or not something is considered a threat or an active pandemic. There was a very short window, so there's only about, I think, a 72-hour or so time period to determine whether or not there is a threat, which there in turn could give them the power to actually, make decisions about future lockdowns. There is a variation of different pandemic descriptions also. So they can be environmental, they could be stuff that's affecting animals. But I guess my point is I'm going to be watching this, because this makes me feel like there is an opportunity for some of this information to get out and not just kind of be blanketed over. And I really encourage you guys to go and learn about this, because you might say, well, I'm an American, it's not going to bother me. When in reality, a lot of nations, presidents and, prime ministers and, just people who are in charge are potentially negotiating these terms and maybe signing away some of your rights. So it would bypass any rights that you may have depending on what particular country you're living in. I'm not saying this to be a conspiracy theorist. I'm just telling you that I find it interesting that it really lines up with the media, what information is being put out in terms of what negotiations or agreements, right, Venus and Gemini, is being determined. And I also feel like we're going to be finding out a lot more about the financial world. So we might be seeing that also right around the 30th of April, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, all the way leading up to the eclipse that's going to be on the 5th of May. So watch in your own life when this conjunction is starting, you might have some epiphany or aha moment where you're suddenly aware of some information you didn't know, or suddenly, you have a breakthrough and you realize what the whole purpose of the Mercury retrograde has kind of been about. That'll be coming up pretty much Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of next week. Now, I'm also liking the sextile that I'm seeing between Mars and Uranus. I think it's going to bring excitement. There can be bursts of energy, desires to change, innovation working with Uranus. Because Mars represents our drive, ambition, and assertiveness, working with Uranus, there can be some sense of freedom. So it's giving us the opportunity to have freedom. And I think with Mars in Cancer, there's lots of emotions that are coming up, and it's from suppressing some of our emotions that we're suddenly having these breakthroughs and realizing that we need more freedom in our lives. Yes, it can present with, sudden emotional outbursts, but it can also give us unexpected opportunity for growth and progress, especially with technology or science or innovation. There can be a strong feeling of needing to take action in pursuing our goals with that sextile. So that plus the Sun North Node earlier in the week, we're feeling really motivated to go somewhere new. I would encourage you guys to take a look at whether or not it's worth taking risks or experimenting with new approaches this week. I definitely think that our intuition and creativity is going to be highlighted. I think we're going to have the ability this week to really think outside of the box with some of the Uranus aspects, come up with innovative solutions to problems. And it's a really good time to collaborate with others and share our visions with other people, because collective energy is so important right now. Uranus aspects represent collective. So if you have a problem, likely other people have a similar problem. I don't think division and just dealing with it, and staying at home and keeping to ourselves is going to fix things. I'm a big believer that if something's a problem, make it bigger, especially right now, because the more that we're talking about this, the more that we can kind of band together with other people and come up with innovative solutions. Please do be mindful, though, that with this energy with Mars, some people are going to be impulsive or reckless. That's just how it goes. There can be some very volatile and unpredictable emotional reactions from some. We want to channel our energy into something that's positive and productive, and avoid taking unnecessary risks or engaging in conflict with people that can lead to negative outcomes. And with careful planning and focus, we can harness this energy to achieve our goals and make significant progress in our personal and our professional lives. So even though there's not a lot going on this week, there really is a lot beneath the surface. Listen to your intuition, really pay attention to some of the things that are setting up, and really make the most of this productive energy that's going to be taking place, especially on Saturday night and Sunday morning. I will be back next week. I have all kinds of videos coming up. I can't believe we're already coming to the end of the month. So next week's Astro Weather is going to be a May monthly, and I will also be putting together the horoscopes. You guys should be getting that in this next week. If you guys are going through it with some of the transits, you guys can always join me here on Friday evenings. I'm here at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time, doing live readings. We alternate between tarot and astrology. If you catch me here this week, we're going to be doing tarot readings. I'll post a link generally sometime around Thursday. So if you guys want to sign up and get in the queue, you can. If you like my style of readings, you want to book a reading with me, I am booking out now in July and August. Things are very busy. But if you'd like to get a reading, go to my website below. Go to beyondtheveiltarot.com. You can see all of my services that I offer, as well as some of my courses. So if you've been wanting to learn tarot or astrology from a beginner level, I have all kinds of courses that are on my website right now, so you guys can check that out as well. It's all study at your own pace. As always, thank you guys so much for your support, for your likes, your comments, your shares. Make sure you leave me a comment below and let me know how you're doing with this energy. And make sure you give me a thumbs up and that you're subscribed. Make sure that you're subscribed. Some people are telling me they're unsubscribed. And until next time, I will see you guys in just a couple days. We'll be back with another video on Tuesday. Enjoy your week. Take care.